Welcome to How to Stay Married So Far. Now, if Mark looks a little bit pale and a little bit upset, that's because we were going to be talking about boobs today.
Yes. Yeah, tits got moved out of the way.
He's found an article which is...
well, hang on, I found an article last week. I talked about this article on our news chat, Coffee Moaning, at the weekend. I didn't really understand the story. I didn't really understand the research topic. Basically, it was about the fact that it's not men's fault that they find boobs attractive, i.e., it's not something that's been nurtured or nature. Yeah, well, but then you dig into the research, and I liken it to those. Johnny gets on the bus with 8 apples, has 3 friends, gives 2 apples to each friend. How many does the teacher have? I can't work out the. Anyway, I wanted to talk about tits.
This is what he said to me, and I read it, and it was perfectly understandable, the whole thing. So I think what happened was he saw men love boobs, and then he was unable to then function normally to actually do the article.
And I mean, this was a scientific study, and I mean, in the context of what we're about to talk to, that really wasn't toxic masculinity chat. It was a scientific study into what is the thing about men and women's boobs.
And none of it surprised me. I would agree with all of it. But we will talk about that another day. Because I then went up and had a bath. It was a midday bath. I thought it's 12 o'clock. I'm going to go and have a bath.
Yeah, I was I was negotiating with a paramedic.
We had a shit morning. Sometimes just to take a bath in the middle of the day and go, do you know what? I'm going to start afresh.
Yeah, you had the solution that I think I was striving for all morning.
That's why I said
you went and did it.
And then I was in the bath, and then I got a call up. I'm going to have a bath as well.
It's been a very dramatic 24 hours.
Anyway, so whilst I was in the bath, I read the article on boobs, and then, as is the way, things start flicking up to you.
Were your boobs in the way?
Mine are always in the way. And this...
So I'm immediately smiling.
We're smiling. Right, stop now. And this video popped up to me. Well, not a video, a post. And the headline was, an unpopular take on the Netflix series Adolescence from an adolescent psychologist. And I thought...
An adolescent what?
Psychologist. And I thought, now, we have spoken a lot about adolescence. We were obsessed with it from a drama point of view, from a social statement point of view, from the conversations that then have come out of it across the world. I mean, I can't remember how many people. It's just millions and millions.
Well, over 24 million was the sort of. It's the most watched British drama in years. Yeah.
So this caught my eye, and I had a look through it, and I really was interested in everything that this psychologist said. So I just sent it to Mark. I said, do you mind if we cancel boobs and we talk about adolescence? Because this is a marriage podcast, but it's also a podcast. Our marriage is very much about our children, parenting, and also not even just that. I think it takes a village. I think that we're all responsible for the children.
I went into a classic kind of controller of a YouTube channel. Should this be a resurrection of Confessions of a Modern Parent? Could it be a sort of nostalgic trip down? Nadja's like, no.
He goes, how do we work our way around it? And it's a marriage podcast. I went, because we're married and we got kids. He went, right, okay.
Yeah, but by that extension,
I'll buy that.
We've completely liberated How to Stay Married So Far, because that means we could talk about dogs.
We can talk about anything.
Talk about pet ownership.
We can talk about what we like. So this is from a lady called Dr. Cam Caswell. And I got a little bit like, when I first saw that, I got a little bit like, what are you going to say about adolescence? Because I think it's the most perfect drama on TV that I've ever seen. I watched it again last night with our eldest, and we wept. She just kept looking at me, I kept looking at her, we cried our eyes out. So she says, Netflix, parents, we need to talk. Adolescence has everyone buzzing about the dangers of social media, toxic masculinity, and online radicalization. And yes, those are real concerns, but fear is not new. We've had it over the decades. And then she goes on to list the different things through generations. 1950s, it was rock and roll. She goes right up to
please read through them, because this is a really notable thing. Okay. This is significant on a very personal level to me.
Okay, all right. 1950s rock and roll, Elvis shaking his hips and moral collapse. 1950s to 60s comic books, they'll turn kids into delinquents. 1960s to 70s television, too much TV will rot their brains or give you square eyes. 1980s Dungeons and Dragons, satanic cults, obviously. And 1990s to the 2000s video games, Mortal Kombat is making kids violent. Today, social media, it's destroying an entire generation. Parents panic, trying to shield their kids from the latest threat, inverted commas, convinced that they just eliminate this one thing, everything will be okay.
The reason I wanted to push you on that, to read those six...
So all of them, I was just going to jump...
Yeah, exactly. The reason I wanted you to read each of them, I was at, bar the rock and roll because I wasn't born, I was at the absolute epicenter of every single one of them in a way that you probably weren't. Dungeons and Dragons, video game playing.
I was aware of all that.
Yeah, no, you're aware of it, but you weren't playing them. And so, you know, insofar as I was in, you know, video nasties, the violent end of TV and video and all that kind of stuff. And the interesting thing about that is it didn't corrupt me. So I loved that they listed these things, of which when you look back at them now, we look at them actually, they're dewy-eyed and nostalgic. And it's actually something that's incredibly homeschooly and kind of positive, you know. It just...
But at this point, I don't agree with her because those are so different from what children are facing and such.
Okay, so carry on.
So I don't agree with any of that. So she says, so we, talking about parents, hover, micromanage, restrict, punish, nag, lecture. But in the process, we miss the real issues our teens are struggling with, and often we make it worse. How do I know? Because teens tell me. And all of those words, I completely...
Let's have a look at them again.
Hover,
Yeah.
micromanage, restrict, punish, nag, and lecture. And over the years, we've said this so many times, haven't we, Mark, on various platforms, whether it's here, Instagram, our parenting podcast we used to do. If you nag, restrict, go crazy, take phones, you have lost. It's just as simple as that. You've lost because you've broken down communication with that child, because that child will become angry, upset, storm off, talk to other people when they're worried or stressed or alone or panicked about something or afraid. They ain't going to talk to you because you're going to go, what are you talking about? Give me that phone. It's this bloody social media.
But and yet when I just pause just for a moment, when I look at all of those words, so the reason I'm looking off this way is because we've got them on the screen. Hover, micromanage, restrict, punish, nag, lecture. The weird thing about all six of those words is that I'm still sat here thinking there needs to be an element of all of them to some degree, to parent in some way. And so the reason I'm sort of hesitating at this point
But
is
it's how you do
yes,
those
we
things,
do all of
isn't it?
those things.
But it's how you do it.
Yeah, it's not only how you do them, but the one that really stuck with me there was hover. I wasn't reading it in terms of hover. I guess they're talking about helicopter parenting, that sort of thing. But we hover over our kids. I would describe now parenting, although our kids are much older than the kids in the drama on Netflix, Adolescence. But that idea of hovering really resonated for me. I've fought against micromanaging because micromanaging for me as a dad is about just wanting your girls to be safe. That's all it's ever been about. How can I make sure what they do is safer? And why are you pulling a funny face? Oh, sorry, you had your mouth like that, like you were... No, that's when you do that thing where you go, yeah, right, you're not telling the truth.
No, it's something in my teeth.
Oh, sorry. Restrict, we have never really restricted them. Punish, what is punishment? I mean, not punishment as in so far as you slap them or even shout at them.
Or take their phone away, never ever take their phone.
Yeah, nag, we've nagged. Lecture, I've never lectured my kids at all, though we've given hard advice, or you give hard advice to all your kids at different ages, even when they're adults. But for me, hover, when I read that, I had a bit of a kind of eureka moment. I was a bit sort of like in the bath, and I was like, I feel like I'm in a perennial state of hovering because I don't quite know what the right foot forward to put is. And I think that, and I don't know if something about the series Adolescence, it could have been because of the fact that they shot it in single takes, they had a drone, and the camera was hovering. The camera hovers in a weird way all the way through the show because it's on a steady cam and it's moving around. So that sense, when I read that word, I thought, yeah, these are the things that we either make mistakes doing in the wrong way, or these are the things that we're not doing enough, or when we are doing them, are we doing them in the right way? But the word, and this is a bit of a sidebar, I realise, but the word that really struck me here was hover. I thought, I feel like I've been in a perennial state of hovering as a parent since I became a dad at 23.
It's funny, isn't it? Because, you know, we have so much spyware, if you like, for kids. You know, snap maps and locations and ring doorbells and all sorts of things that we now have. I call it spyware because I think people spy on their children. Now, we don't spy on them. I don't track them. I don't know where... well, they will tell us where they are and where they're going because they're never in trouble for where they are, where they're going. So we always know where they are.
Yeah.
But when I talk to people that do that and they say, oh, no, I can't. I have to know where they are. I follow them. I know that they're going. And I say, does it make you feel any safer? And they all say no. So actually... parenting is a victim of technology as well. So the hysteria is actually, we fuel it ourselves. Outside of social media, the spyware fuels it because we don't, oh God, what if I go to bed before I've tracked them actually going into the club? What do I, it's not working.
No amount of tracking, snap maps. I mean, I have to confess, it does work for me. We always generally know where our kids are. They tell us where they're going for a party. They know that they're hanging out for drinks, what they're doing. I like to, of an evening, if there's a point where I'm thinking, do I need to, as a dad, chuck my driving shoes on or not? Or can I kind of relax back into going to bed? I just like to check where they are, not in a spying way.
No, but that's very different.
But when I see, I think
that's very different. I'm talking about people that are tracking their kids all the time. You will occasionally, if you don't know where they are, just want to know. That's a different thing. I'm talking about people that are daily, from the minute their kids
are their parents
leave,
doing that?
Oh my God, Mark, you would not believe. So I think that kind of hovering and micromanaging is going to hurt you. I think you're right. I think all parenting needs these in certain way, but it's about how you do it. So you don't lecture, stand there, well, I'm telling you, because they will shut down. They don't hear you. They don't care. No, but that's what I believe. It doesn't work. I believe lecturing is about finding different ways to open up lines of communication and conversations with them. We watch all kinds of shows with our girls. We'll watch Love Island, we'll watch Temptation Island, we'll watch all sorts of things. And out of that, we have all sorts of conversations that without them knowing, we are kind of lecturing them, but they wouldn't have a clue. They just think we're having a conversation. And if you think about it as a grown adult, is there anything worse than somebody lecturing you?
Well, no one likes being lectured to. No adults like being lectured to.
Does it make you want to move more to that person's way? No, if you say you've got a boss that really talks to you in an open way with considerations and possibilities, you're open to it. Why we always think that children need to be communicated to in a completely different way than we would like to ourselves. I think that's where we go wrong.
But I think, again, it speaks to something we used to talk a lot about in our parenting podcast, which is, you know, there has to be an evolution to parenting. There has to be an evolution to parenting. There has to be a process of looking at the ways it used to be done and evolving. I mean, presumably that is the definition of a civilization or a culture or
and the creativity of being a parent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being a parent, I think, is one of the most creative things you can do because you are trying to help another human being navigate their way through life, and it makes you realise all the fucking bollocks that you yourself are still living in. So it makes you correct and think about yourself, and then it's just a learning process back and forth.
But the thing that really gets me about this, and this is something again that really frightens me, when you are parents, and parents listening to this or watching this will know, you come across other parents through the parents of your children's friends or partners and things like that. And I'm not talking about any of the specifics of anyone we know. I never cease to be amazed by how old-fashioned I hear or sense some parents still are. So when we sit here and we say, yeah, but thank God we're on the same page when it comes to parenting. I mean, thank God Almighty. But there are some people, I was listening to Nick Ferrari again on the radio the other morning, and the way he said he talked to his son about something, it's like he sits his son at the table, he sits down as the parent, he talks in a formal fashion. There are parents who do that, who lecture, let's just use the lecturing your kid thing, who will never in a month of Sundays listen to someone like us and think that there is another way forward. They would think we are the namby-pamby, hippified indulgers of snowflake culture, because we don't sit and lecture them. And then they'll wonder why their kids will come off the rails at some point or do something wrong.
Well, I don't happen to agree with you. I think it's different folks for different strokes. And I can think of one person I know who's a very old-fashioned mum. And she has an incredibly sorted, productive, adorable child. So I just think there are different ways. But she's also kind, and she'll communicate and she'll have a conversation. But she might also lecture as well. I think it's just about balance, because there'll be things that the Nick Ferraris might look at our children and go, my God,
no,
is that
absolutely.
how that turned
No, I'm not
out?
suggesting the way we do it is right. I just look at it sometimes and I think it seems such an obvious one to most if any youngster is told not to do something, you can pretty much rest assured, not all of them, but a huge number of them are going to go no.
Because it's interesting, because sometimes when I'm having deep conversations with the girls about something, say it's a boy or something, and so we'll have a whole conversation, and they'll say, well, what do you think I should do? And I say, no, would you be annoyed if I did this, say? And I'll say, no, because we've discussed everything. So it would be up to you. You're now making your own choices. Sometimes you go, I don't want to make my own choice. Can you just
want the
tell
choice
me?
taken from them.
Yeah, because actually, what I think you want is you want to inform them, and then for them to make choices that they will make mistakes in and that they will recalibrate, but not to have any judgment. I think if you're judging your children really harshly, why would they come to you in moments of need? And I think that's the big thing. As an adolescent psychologist, I've listened to thousands of teens open up raw and unfiltered
She's
about
reading
their
from
struggles.
the post again.
Here's what I don't hear. I was feeling great. Then I saw something on social media, and out of nowhere, I wanted to hurt myself or someone else. Here's what I do hear. I hear...
This list is amazing, by the way.
I love this
So
list.
this was the point at which I was in the bath and I thought, fucking hell, this is so powerful.
This is a very powerful list, so listen.
Listen to this.
All my parents do is yell at me. I can't do anything right. School is so boring. What's the point? I feel so much pressure to be perfect, and all I do is disappoint. I never feel good enough, no matter how hard I try. I don't feel like I can be myself at home. My parents only care about my grades, not me. I feel like everyone is judging me all the time. My teacher is so mean, I think they hate me. I can't wait to be free so I can finally be myself. I wish everyone would just leave me alone. I don't care anymore. I give up. So that's obviously from various teenagers. And I think all of that is about lack of communication.
They broke my heart, all of those
Really,
statements.
so sad.
I felt really sad when I read all of them.
And then she goes on to say, from what I've seen, their mental health isn't being shattered by what they see online. It's being crushed by the real life pressures they're carrying every single day. And instead of feeling supported, they hear, if you just stay off that damn phone, they feel invalidated, misunderstood, and unsupported.
So can I just
I
pause?
really think I understand all of that. I agree with all of that.
Just pivoting this
And you
back.
know what? It gives you hope. Because if we just think that all of the mess is just down to this social media that we are totally powerless over, that's really depressing.
So
But these things we
by
can fix.
extension, is what she's suggesting, because let's sort of circle back to the original thing. This is a contrarian approach to adolescence. It's challenging, isn't it? Everyone's jumping up and down about adolescence being a great drama.
I think she's contrariarising a lot of the conversations that have come out.
No,
of
but
it.
interestingly, because I think what she's saying there is that it's actually, we're talking about real world situations, real life situations, experiences, what's going on. Like she says, it's not a case of you feel something, you look online and suddenly you're tipped into an abyss. There's stuff going on in your day-to-day life, which is real world stuff that we have culpability of, that they're engaging with, that they're rubbing up against, that they're sitting with someone or not sitting with someone at a table, they're having a conversation or they're not having a conversation. The reason I'm stressing the not as well as the have I'm talking about how much can happen to children by omission. I'm talking about myself as a child of a single parent. I never had an engagement or relationship with my father, but he had a massive impact on my life in his absence. And I think the reason that's important is because for children, it's not just about what's being actively said or lectured or said. It's also about what they're not getting or what they're around, if they're around a person who's their relative or their parent and they get nothing from them. And I think what's interesting about this is I read a couple of critiques of the drama that said that it was utterly unbelievable, that there was absolutely nothing else that was not good in his life.
There was loads.
Well, no, but if you think about, and I don't agree, but I thought it was an interesting take on it. It wasn't his dad, it wasn't his mum. Their relationship was good. They were in their home together. It wasn't a broken family and all this kind of stuff. So you could argue that the show has encouraged everyone to go, social media is the problem, it's everything they're seeing in the manosphere, because actually the film doesn't...
It was far cleverer than that.
It was far cleverer than that.
And all of the points were given, but they were subtle and they were brilliant. He used to love drawing, didn't he? He used to love drawing. He would draw for hours. It's about seeing what little light your child has and then puffing on it, even if it's not your thing. When he talks about how he took him to the boxing, he took him to football, and he was ashamed because he couldn't do it. He was a bit of an idiot. He was a bit of a... So he was still being a good dad. He hadn't done something fundamentally wrong, but he'd done what this woman was talking about. He hadn't listened. He hadn't seen what his child was. And he was out at 6 o'clock in the morning and he was back at 8 o'clock at night. All those moments that he talked about in that makes me cry again, just thinking about that scene when he talked about all of those missed moments. He was a funny kid, wasn't he? Because I watched it again last night. And we try to fit them into a box. All of us do. Even the best, whatever that is, parents in the world. We have an idea of what we want them to be. He had a really rough childhood, the dad, so he wanted to take him to football because his dad hadn't taken him to football, but he wasn't a football boy. He wasn't a football boy. He wasn't listening or seeing who his son was. With the I thought it was brilliantly shown with the police officer. Right at the very beginning of the series, we hear him say, "Oh, he's not wanting to go to school again." Kids that keep saying they don't want to go to school are saying it for a reason. Kids that are going in and got their mates and having a bit of bants on the way into class, they're enjoying school. If your child is saying over and over again that they don't like school, there's something going on there. And that is exactly what she's saying. My parents aren't hearing me. I'm not happy. I've got no friends. My teacher hates me. And that's all this stuff, as parents, we tend to just, you'll be fine, just go in. But
the problem here is that the response to the programme, once Keir Starmer got on board with the fact that it wasn't a documentary and then actually watched it.
I mean, he cares about those children, but not at all.
Yeah, but also the fact that he called it had he seen it when he said he'd seen it? Anyway, no, whatever. But, the fact that what people are seizing upon, they're using it's becoming a rallying call for action on social media. Of course, the nuance of the drama itself, you have those moments dropped in it. And I think it's a shame that the whole thing, the whole kind of experience and the whole kind of portrait of this boy has become quite simplistically narrowed down to social media influence. And it's not that the show dropped the ball. I'm not suggesting it did.
Really? It's all in there.
It's all in there. But my worry is, was it too subtle?
That's maybe.
Was all of that too subtle? Because actually, the debate has become, again, because let's not beat around the bush. Most parents are stretched to breaking point. Exactly. As children are stretched,
but they show that brilliantly.
As children are stretched by school, parents are stretched by work, bills, responsibilities, finding time. They hadn't been. I love that detail. They haven't been to the cinema in ages. They're going to go to the cinema to
But see, the more we talk about it, the more I think it's not that subtle.
No.
When she says the line that broke me and you, we couldn't stop crying, was when she said, "I think it's all right for us to say we didn't
Absolutely.
do enough."
But my point is, I think it's doing a disservice to the show that all of the emphasis and all of the kind of concentration is on how we need to fix social media. I've always said it, and I've always felt it.
I've never thought that. It's how do we fix our communication?
Yeah, but that's what the press, that's all the coverage about it.
Every
weekend we do the Saturday papers. All I see is another article. Adolescence, incel culture online is changing its tactics. It's becoming this, that and the other. All the influences, these are all the emoji. This is all the emoji language.
Important.
I mean,
she says, here's the truth. Screens are not the root problem. Neither is social media. It's how teens feel when they log on. So to go back to the drama, well, Dad's gone out at 6. He's a bit ashamed of me because I'm no good at football. I come back. Dad comes back at 8 o'clock. I've been bullied mercilessly all day at school, and then when I've come home as well, Mum is disengaged because she's a bit scared of the computer. She's a lovely mum, but I am up here until 1 o'clock in the morning, and she tells me to turn it off because the light's coming underneath, but she doesn't ask me why I've been on the computer till 1 o'clock. This is what this psychologist
I'm a bit confused
because
when we had the list of all the other incidents where there were the Dungeons and Dragons, computer games, I mean, unless you were into video games, and I was in a big way, it was genuinely thought this was the end of fucking civilization. When the video nasties were happening and Mary Whitehouse was running around. No, I know it wasn't. But when we went through the list, you paused at the end and went, I don't think what we're dealing with now is equivalent to these.
I don't think what we're dealing
but you've just said it's not about
is
social
equivalent. I think it's much more dangerous, hence why it's even more important that our communication, this is the brilliant line. Screens are not the problem. It's how teens feel when they log on. Did your teen come in and you said, have a good day? Yeah, nothing. Or do you go, oh, look, it feels like, was it something this? Was it something that? If they come in and they go straight upstairs with all the horrors of their day and log on, and there's something there validating their feeling or distracting them from their feelings, that's a different child to a child that has an open line of communication with their parents.
But in essence, the same child was going through the same problems and was diversifying or distracting in something else.
But it was still just a game. It was still just Elvis occasionally shaking his hips.
Because
like, how often would you actually see Elvis shaking his hips? This is 24/7, non-stop running. If you want pornography, violence, it's not the same.
Right.
It's not the same.
I just wanted to go back to this list.
It's just falling on.
Just for a moment. Going back through the list, which I thought things like school is so boring. What's the point? I feel so much pressure to be perfect, and all I do is disappoint. I mean, as I was reading these, not only are these the dilemmas and the problems for teenagers, these are the problems and dilemmas for parents too, about their own lives. I think we forget, and it's something that we can easily forget, that parents are, we've said it many times before, grown-up children doing it for the first time. And I think once again, it's like you rightly say, it's one of the most creative things we can do, but it's one of the most fucking important things we ever do in our lives, is become a parent and become responsible for another life. And so when I think we've also got parents that are threaded through with all these doubts. Just replace school with work. Just replace, I don't feel like I can be myself at home. Parents don't feel they can either in their relationships.
No, but the difference is our brains are formed. Their brains are malleable. So if you give them a drug to anaesthetize their feelings, and the drug is social media, it's a way, way more dangerous thing than snake-hipped Elvis Presley or video games. It's much worse. So, but the medicine is still the same. It's about how they feel when they log on, how they feel when they watch Elvis, how they feel when they play Dungeons and Dragons. So hang on, I'm just trying to find... when they're already struggling, they're more likely to fall into toxic spaces. When they feel supported, happy and connected, they use social media to create, communicate and explore their interests. So what's the solution? We have a solution, folks.
Well, no. Yeah.
Instead of trying to protect our teens from every new threat, because there will always be another one, let's focus on building their resilience, confidence and sense of belonging, especially at home. Because when teens feel seen, heard and valued, they're far less likely to get pulled into the dark corners of the internet in the first place. And that is far less likely. Not definite, but far less likely. So if we have the power to make it less likely, I feel.
No, I think the point I made badly then was, and I was trying to make, was I think we're dealing with parents now, huge numbers of parents who are themselves victims of the social media hook. We hear it said so many times that, you know, many kids feel a disengagement from their parents because their parents are on their phones all the time. And I actually think social media does operate, I'm not for a minute equating social media to all of those other generational things. In terms of the pivot away and the distraction into something, it's all the same reasons. I do wonder whether we were as, and I don't mean this in a kind of judgy way, I do wonder if we just weren't as complicated back in those days.
And so, we didn't have a million choices.
And that's the other positive and negative side of evolution and development and growth and awareness and awakening and all that kind of stuff.
And also we exercised more, we ran around on the streets more, we didn't eat takeaways every other night. Everything. Yeah. Everything.
But I do worry that when, for some kids coming home, they're literally coming home into a digital parenting environment where everyone, and, you know, without, you know, look at the age of a lot of the men who are hooked into the manosphere. They're not just young men. No. They're old men. They're men my age. They're grown men who are themselves probably parents of boys. Yes. And so that inherent, you know, I think it's easy to fall into the sort of slightly idyllic idea of if we do A, B, C, and D, we can resolve this. I don't know what the answer is. I don't
think she's saying you can resolve this. I think she's saying this is something that you have that's in your own power. And I think that that's really important because to feel powerless, one throws one to, oh, it's that bloody social media, and throw your arms up in the air. Well, we can't be doing that. That's dangerous. So here is what she says. Listen without judgment. Let them feel free without fear of criticism. And something that I always used to do so badly, I'd jump in too quickly to want to fix it. So they might be starting telling me a problem. I'd go, oh, right, okay. Oh my God. It's just instinct, isn't it? But that was a mistake I made for years and years. It was my brilliant children that corrected me on it eventually. But that's what my parents did. That's what I believed a parent did. No, it's like Maddie said, we know when it's something you can't fix. So you should know when it's something you can't fix as well. We just want you to hear it, you know. Validate their feelings. Show them their emotions matter, even if you don't get it. So that's sort of like, so for example, when somebody says, school is boring, I don't see the point of it. Don't just discount that. Don't just go, well, you know, it's boring for everybody, just get on with it. Oh, why? In what way is boring? What is it that maybe, that book could be, I thought that. You know, just a bit of engagement in everything they say is to listen to them. Because people do say all the time, oh, my kids don't talk to me anymore. But are you nice to talk to?
But also the other
Are you interested?
But also the other thing as well is that if any parent listening to this thinks, you know what, I think I've learned a few things from this. I'll try with Johnny next time he comes in and he's a bit morose and he goes, if it doesn't work it takes a long time to shift it. They've got to trust that when and this is a really important tip. They've really got to trust, and this is something I learned on the stage 1 counselling. They have to know you are actually giving them time. It's a curious one. Before you try and step into counsel at the lowest level, this is the lowest grade of counselling qualifications, you have to be absolutely certain yourself that you have the time to give to this. And that's active listening time. And we are all grazing, moving, trying to fix too many things at the same time. So when you have that moment, even say to yourself, they walk through the door at this time each day, usually, I'll make sure I've got that out of the way by that time. And when I turn around to them and say, how'd it go? And they've got something to say, you've given them 10 minutes, even if they don't want it, and they might walk off and not take it. Yeah. But once they trust that you're offering them that active time.
And you're interested.
Exactly.
I mean, when with one of my daughters, she was going through her teenage bit and just not talking to me about anything. The way that and didn't want hugs I would just put my arms and go, you gorgeous cheeks. And she would like pull away because they all go through that stage. But I kept pushing on and kept cuddling. And now she just cuddles all the time. But the big breakthrough for me was I started to realise she was never going to sit opposite me and tell me something. So I said, listen, text me. And at the end of the text, say whether you want to talk about it or whether you don't. Well, you would be amazed what an absolute breakthrough that was.
Yeah, it was great.
And especially, and I'll tell you what was so hard, was sometimes she might text me with something that was really a lot, you know, but there would be, I don't want to talk about it. And so I had to accept that and not ask her, just kill my curiosity, and just allow that to just be. And because that's how she needed me, she needed to just offload. She didn't want anything else. Another thing she used to do was like, she would come, didn't want to come, but sometimes she would just lean on my back. So I would like be like this, and she would just be like that. Other people have said to me that their teens have done this as well. And it was really odd, and I was thinking, why did she want to cuddle me? And then I had this brilliant breakthrough where I thought, like a phone, she's gone onto a charging point, and she's just charging. She's offloading, like in a physical way, and then just taking energy. And then she would just go off, and it was like, but as soon as I thought of it like that, it became a really beautiful thing.
The other thing as well, yeah, I mean, one of the girls kind of was going through an issue the other day, and I think one of the other things you can do, and I've had to really get to this place. I've got to this place slowly, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I perhaps regret that I wasn't across this with my younger girls. Is the idea that when a child or, you know, a teen comes to you, and they're feeling just sad or depressed or dark, or they can't work it out, or hopeless, and all these things, and you know you've done your kind of due diligence as best as you can to find out if it's not bullying, you know, it's something happened to you, someone done, and it's not that, it's a feeling. They will respond much more positively to you across time if you are really honest and say, well, you know, let's just sit with this. Sometimes there's great power in saying there's nothing that can be said. There's nothing that can be said that can change this. There's nothing. They smell a rat if you're forever going through a list. And I've always wanted to fix everything and manage everything and find an answer for everything. And I have huge struggles with my own mental health. And I know for a fact that I feel not at my best, but I start to recover with my mental health when I'm in a dark place. When I know I'm just being given the space to be and for it to work through, but I know that I'm in a safe place. So just offer that safe place. And I remember I said to her the other day, I said, look, everything I say is going to be a platitude. It's just going to be, you know, just hold. If they want to be held, let them hold you. If they want to sit in the room, let them sit. Just check in on them if they're in their room together.
Oh, you're so bloody moody. That's going to, where are they going to end up with those feelings? So I too will say to the girls, is this one of those where you need to distract because it's something that's so out of your control and there's no point sitting with it? Or is this something that you need to sit with and to feel? And you know that we're here, know that I'm here, you can come for a cuddle, you can Try not to go on your phone, I'll say that. Try not to go on your phone because you'll end up on TikTok where you'll just see one perfect girl after another. Do something really nice for yourself, you know, just, I don't know, maybe light a candle, have a bath, do this, do that, and I'll give them a great load of options that they could do to self-soothe. You know, when you've got a baby and you want them to soothe themselves back to sleep, it's the same thing with teenagers. How do you self-soothe back? Because you're giving them a toolbox that will take them through life. You're not going to go and stuff your face with sweets. You're not going to do drugs. You're not going to, there are so many things that are available to a kid now by just pressing their phone. Snap maps, you can get drugs brought to you wherever you want. You know, you want big fat chips and burger on it, and this is all about swallowing down and shutting down your feelings because there's nowhere for you to sit with them. So I totally agree with that. This is a really important one. Focus on who they are, not what they do. Celebrate their character, not just their achievements. How many people do we know that go, so how are your A-levels going? First thing people ask them. First thing, ask a kid something else other than what they got in their GCs or what they got in their A-levels.
What are you going to go and study at college?
Yeah.
It's
just
like
a crushing sense of failure.
What film have you seen? What films are you into? What music are you into? We had some
to
young adult males the other day. Who's your favourite director? Who's your favourite writer?
You know what we say?
What's your favourite game?
We say to teens that we meet, we say, God, what's the thing you love most? What do you do when you haven't got anything else that you've got to do?
So what degree are you doing? What sort of line of work do you think you're going to get into?
Then you're a more interesting person. Yeah. Adults are so boring to kids. Let them fail. It's okay to let them stumble. They'll learn how to get back up. Major fail in us. We were so bad at learning that.
What?
Failure.
All we baked into their homeschooling was the idea that you can't get an idea straight away
I
around
think
art.
sometimes we were a bit too helicopter and a bit. I'll say that about myself. But cheer them on. Be their biggest supporter no matter how small the win. Exactly. Lead with love and kindness. Start and end with compassion, always showing their love. Now, you see, there'd be a lot of people that were listening to this and saying, but that's spoiling them. Have you ever been spoiled by love as an adult? If somebody says to you something lovely, if your partner every day, first thing in the morning and last thing at night, says something lovely, does that turn you into a brat, or does that turn you into a more loving partner and a more, why do we make the rules so different for children than we do men?
I think people who feel you can spoil people by loving them too much or expressing your love for them are odd.
I think they maybe haven't had enough love.
I want to spoil with love. You're right. I mean, to pay a
spoil with money and
don't
things,
indulge
yes.
bad behaviour. I mean, I think it becomes very complicated there. You see, because for little Johnny, who does something that drives everyone else in class mad, and Mum Jemima goes, well, it's just Johnny. He's just incredibly over-enthusiastic. It's him being self-creative and expressive. No, it's not. Johnny's being a very annoying little shit. How do you get across that? Johnny the shit isn't Johnny the shit to the mum.
Poor Johnny all the time.
Because Johnny is the most irritating little fucker in class.
So Dr. Cam Caswell, who we like very much, to finish says, teens' struggles are not new. We know that.
No.
The bad influences will keep changing, but what won't change? The fact that a strong, supportive relationship with you is the best protection they'll ever have. Want to truly protect your teen from the dangers online? Have more real, meaningful conversations with them. I love that. Dr. Cam Caswell, if you want to follow her on Instagram. I think those are all really.
So do you think they enjoyed the series?
Also, you know what? I just noticed something here. She says, DM me with the word prompts and she'll give you 30 favourite scripts to help get you started. That's really good. Like scripts, like how you've been doing, how to start a conversation, because lots of people struggle with how to do that. Because if you've got a complete breakdown of communication with your child, it's really hard to suddenly come in and go, I want to communicate. So that's really, practical help.
So did she like or not like? Or did he? Was it she or he? I don't know. Did they like Adolescence? I can't really tell. I can't tell if they thought it was. I was expecting them to be entirely critical of it. I thought that's
she says here, I've watched Adolescence multiple times, and while I have a lot of thoughts, the one that stands out the most is this: we can't protect our teens from everything or even know what they're being exposed to. It changes too frequently to keep up.
Well, and in defence of Adolescence, not that it needs defending because she's not attacking it, but I do feel frustrated that the aftermath of Adolescence has pointed towards what I call a really obvious, quite narrow-focused, narrow-gauged response to what needs to be done about social media.
But there has also been a lot of conversations around, are we communicating enough? Do we just throw our hands up too much?
Well, I think this kind of conversation is brilliant coming out of it.
Like I went upstairs to one of our daughters straight after Adolescence and said, I'm really sorry, I know I could have done better. She goes, Mom, you're a really good mum. I went, well, you know what? I don't really listen when you say you wish TikTok would be banned. I just go, well, it never will be banned. But what are you telling me? Because you've told me that 5, 6, 7 times.
See, I thought it was bad. I didn't go up and apologise for anything.
5, 6, 7 times you've told me that your heart leapt with joy when you heard in America they were making TikTok illegal.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing.
What should you have done?
So I said to her,
what could you have done?
Well, what was really interesting is she stopped dead and she looked at me with her beautiful big eyes and I said, possibly what I should have said was, I think you should delete it. I want you to delete it for 4 weeks and I want you to see how different your life will be. And she didn't say anything. She didn't say to me, don't do that. So I'm still considering that that's what I need to do. But what am I so afraid of? So that was an immediate conversation with myself having watched the drama. So what do we choose to just not see because we don't know what to do about it? Plenty. All of us do it. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do.